Welcome to the Faster Fluency Conversation Club podcast by Business English with Christina. If you want to be confident speaking English, network with professionals around the world, and practice speaking to become fluent faster, join us. We have 9 conversation sessions every week. Plus, podcast listeners get a 50% discount on the first month of membership with the discount code FFCC50. The link to join is in the show notes. Now, let's go. Faster Fluency Conversation Club podcast, tips on how to start a conversation with a stranger. Hey, this is Christina, and we're back for another episode of the Faster Fluency Conversation Club podcast. And today I'm with Andrew. And Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm good. And you?
Yep, doing well. I'm
awesome.
Back. I'm doing awesome. Exactly. I'm recovering from a marathon, so I don't know if that's
Really?
awesome or not. But
Really?
but I
Is
am
that so?
Indeed. Yeah.
That's
Right.
great. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah. We're going to talk about what you were doing there later on in the conversation in case you guys were listening. You're like, why is Andrew doing that? We're going to talk about that because our topic today is tips
Awesome.
on how, well, we're going to talk about how to do that correctly, how to start a conversation with a stranger, and maybe actually one of those things. I don't know, Andrew, let's look at what you were doing right there as I was talking about how I was doing.
Well, I was prompting the conversation. So
Right.
Every time you said something, I said words like, well, the English, UK English would say, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Like that. And the Americans would tend to say, awesome, great, super, wonderful, right?
Yeah.
All these things that make things sound very positive. The English would probably say lovely. Oh, that's great. Oh, really? Wow. That's another one. Okay. So these are prompts. You're prompting people to continue. You want them to continue talking about. So you say to them, if they say, for example, yes, I went paragliding the other day, you go, wow, that's great. And they will continue then with it because they think it's great. So you're creating a positive atmosphere.
Right, exactly. And it's also a way of showing that you're listening and that you're following the conversation. Because a lot of one time, I would say something that I have noticed often is, if I'm talking about my weekend or whatever, and I'm, with a client who is learning English, as I'm talking, they're just sitting there silently, not saying anything. And it's a little, I would say, destabilizing perhaps maybe for a native speaker because they're wondering, it's are they listening to me? Are they understanding me? Am I boring them to death? Should I change the topic? So that is actually
so you need to prompt people. You need to keep them encouraged to show that you're listening to them. It's a kind of active listening thing.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Now, what about, so that's kind of once you get the conversation started and you get the conversation going. But what about you want to start a conversation with a stranger? How would you break the ice? Any tips on how to break the ice with someone?
Breaking the ice? Well, yes, because often there is ice between you and you have to break it. So how would you break it? There are different ways of doing it. So if, for example, you're in a conference and you want to, there's something you need to know, you could always ask for information, right? If the person, you can assume the person has been there before and you say, when does the lecture start?
Right.
What time does the conference begin? Do you know where, what time is it? You ask for information like that. And that is a way of breaking the ice and starting. That's one way of doing it.
Yeah.
You can also pay a compliment. This is something that people do. You can, but it has to be appropriate. You have to be careful. For example, you wouldn't say to somebody, "Oh, I like your lipstick," or particularly if it's a man on a woman, right? It wouldn't sound great. It would be inappropriate. So
exactly. Yeah.
Say something. A woman could say to another woman, "Oh, I like your hair," or "I like your clothes," or "I like your," but in general, you would avoid things about appearance. And you might say something like, for example, "Oh, you did a really good lecture the other day," or I saw on your professional profile, you've written 5 books. That's really awesome. I really like it.
Right.
Things like that. You can say things. I've heard of your reputation. You're very well known.
Right. Exactly. Right. So yeah, it's paying a compliment is a good icebreaker. But again, you want to make sure that it's not like inappropriate. And like you
Yes.
said, commenting on maybe their physical appearance might be inappropriate.
Yes.
But I mean, you could comment like, oh, I like your earrings, or I like your scarf, or I like your
Mm,
purse, or whatever. That
yes.
would be
Indeed.
fine. But yeah,
And you can ask for information, for example, about them, about
yeah,
so what do you generally do at weekends?
right,
Um, what do you do in your spare time? But of course, you have to be careful with this because you don't want to get too personal. If you get
right,
very personal, you could end up creating problems, right? You could make people feel uncomfortable. Don't
right.
what you want when you're starting a conversation is to get people feeling.
Exactly.
So,
You want to make somebody feel good and comfortable
yes,
talking to you, not to make them feel a little like hesitant or
yes. Otherwise, they will clam up.
nervous.
They will clam
Exactly.
up,
They're
and
just
the conversation will finish. Right?
yeah, exactly.
They will clam up.
Exactly.
That's an expression like a clam, which is a sea creature on rocks, and if it clams up, you can't open.
Right, exactly. And we don't want them to clam up. We want them to open up for the
That's it. Right.
conversation. And I would say maybe also maybe a final tip on conversations, just based on experience working with clients, is when someone asks you something like how was your weekend, or how was, if you're at a conference, oh, how was the plenary talk, you should elaborate on your answers. Don't just
Yes.
say it was good and
Mm.
leave it at that, because the other person is expecting you to give at least one extra detail, like, oh, it was good, I went hiking in the mountains this weekend, or the plenary was really good, she talked about some concepts that I hadn't thought of
That's right.
before.
And then
um
you create possibilities of shared experience.
exactly.
If you're elaborating on what you said, if you give a short answer, it's very often it just leaves things there where they are, and the person can't hook into it and start talking again. Talking about their experience. So it's very important, yeah,
Exactly.
to show that you're interested and
Mhm.
that you like talking, but you don't want to talk too
Exactly.
much.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a good place to end this episode. Speaking of not talking too much, we don't want to go on too long, but
Mm.
yeah, some very good tips there on how to start and then how to continue
I would just add a couple
conversations
of
with the
others very
strangers.
quickly. Very quickly, you could add. Okay, you could also ask for an opinion. Right? What
Hmm.
did you think of the conference? Do you like this conference hall?
Right,
Or you can ask them about things that you know about them. For example, if they live in Madrid, right?
right.
What's the weather like at the moment in Madrid?
Right, yeah.
Simple one. You have to
Yeah,
avoid, other topics. So I think that's the most important thing.
yeah. That sounds like a good final thought there. And thank you, Andrew, for that. And we'll see you in just a few seconds in the vocabulary episode.
Okay.
All right. See ya.
See you later.
Thank you for listening this week. If you want to do more than just listen, and you want to practice speaking vocabulary and get the confidence in English that you need for your career, become a member of the Faster Fluency Conversation Club today. And if you want to try the club, we'll give you a guest invitation to a free first session so that you can see for yourself how awesome this club is. To arrange your guest invitation, email us at contact@ChristinaRubafe.com and just ask. We'll take care of you.